Hey everyone, how are you? I am using a platform that I don't normally use. It has been a minute since I've gone live on YouTube, so bear with me just a second. I see a few people in the comments saying hi. Hi Elizabeth, hi Mary. All right, so my idea for tonight was just to kind of invite some people in just to play with color palettes. And if you want to follow along with me and do exactly as I'm doing step by step, you are welcome to do that. But there are lots of different fun ways to change a design. So I've got my colors tonight. It was based on the Calm Citrus color palette. So I've got Wild Berry, Irish Moss, and Sunset Gold. It's basically, this is kind of a pinkish red, a lime green, and a deep yellow. And then I added white to those. So those are the 6 colors that I'm going to use. And I do not have a plan tonight. I'm just going to kind of go for it. So this may or may not turn out the way I like it. But remember, there's so many different things you can do. You can start with a different background color. I'm using the Happy Dotting 16 arm stencil. So you can change that. You can use a 12 arm stencil. You could use a 10 arm stencil. You could change the pattern that way. You can change the pattern by changing swooshes to walking the dots or things like that. So please feel free to make this your own and to have fun tonight. The idea was just to kind of make time to dot. And then if we all use the same color palette, it'll be fun to see how things turn out. But you don't even have to use the same color palette. Feel free to change that up. What I kind of have going on in my head is that I'm going to start with the lighter colors, and I'm going to do my entire base with the set of light colors, and then I'm going to do top dots with these darker colors. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Or should I start with the darker colors and do the top dots in the light colors? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have an opinion on that. I'm kind of flexible and I'm just going to wing it tonight. So, like I said, feel free to follow along and work step by step with me, or you can just have fun dotting and just creating something on your own. So this is no pressure. I just wanted to start having a few events in the group to keep us all dotting and inspired and having fun. So I thought this would be a fun way to do that. All right, so tonight I'm going to use my Happy Dotting tools, but I'm going to stick with the whole sizes because I know there's some tool sets that don't have the halves. So I'm going to start with my dark colors on the base and then do light. So I'm going to do 8 inch, holy smoly, 8 millimeter. My background here, I just painted black. And my dish, I think, is just a smidge over 5 inches. But my stencil is right at 5 inches. So if you're kind of playing with a similar size or really anywhere from 4.5 to 6 inches, you should be good. I'm going to make my center dot with my red color and my 8 millimeter tool. I really like this wild berry color from Deco Art. I'm not really a red person. I don't like reds very much, but this has just the right amount of magenta in it that it makes me happy. So that was 8 millimeters for the center. I'm just going to peek in here real quick on Facebook and make sure nobody's lost. I'm really bad about not checking that, and then people are like, where are you? All right, so 8mm center. And then I'm going to fix this. I feel like I'm off center a little bit. I hate when my center dot is not perfect. Drives me crazy. Also, I am puppy sitting for my grand puppy tonight, so if you hear barking and chaos, that's what's going on. All right, so I'm going to get my 6mm tool, and I am going to go out a little bit, and I'm going to work right on those T dots there. So I'm going to leave some room, and I'm going to add 8 6mm dots in my yellow. I'm going to get my 4mm tool, and I'm going to use my green. In between these yellows, I'm going to put one green. So for me, that's where my lines are. This is going to fill in that space. I should have done this first, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. This is what it looks like when I'm working on the fly here. So those were 4mm with the green. I'm going to keep my 4mm tool, and I'm going to go with my pink. So these colors that I have here are just the deeper colors with some white added. So I don't have 6 colors. I have 3 colors and then the white. So I'm going to use my 4mm tool in between this dark yellow. I'm going to add a 4mm dot. going to go back to my 8mm tool. This time I'm going to use light green. And right next to that pink dot, this puts me on my second ring. So I'm going to go right where those T lines are. Right next to the pink dot, I'm going to make a light green dot. And I think I'm going to go ahead and walk the dots around that. That's what I'm thinking. So these were 8mm light green. I'm going to get my 2.5mm stylus, and I'm going to go back to that pink, and I'm going to walk the dots towards me. I can fit 6 comfortably, so I'm going to aim for 6 on each side. So if there's anybody that's joined a little late on YouTube, you can always watch from the beginning. So don't be afraid to move the slider to the start and create from the beginning with us. Or you can just hop in and dot. There's no rules here. We're just having to play with some paint colors tonight. This is a fun way for me just to try out some of those paint colors that I've been thinking about for a while. Some of those color palettes that I've had my eye on but never seem to make time to do. All right, so it was a 4mm dot in the center, and then I walked the dots on each side with my 2.5mm stylus. Next, I think I'm going to make some teardrop shapes. I'm going to get my 6mm tool, and I'm going to use this light yellow. These pretty long, I think. So I'm going to go, let's see, maybe to the bottom of that next row. Just where these pink dots start to fall off. And I am going to make a 6mm dot. And I am going to pull that in. I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So I'm going to have 8 of those. And this, of course, is in my light yellow. And I guess where I kind of landed on my colors is wherever I have the light colors, I'm going to come back and put the dark on top. Wherever I have the dark, I'm going to put some light on top. And I'll just kind of flip-flop when I do top dots. Before I get too much farther out on this design, I'm going to fill in some of this space between these yellows here. Between these dark yellows, I'm going to get 1.5mm stylus, and I'm going to use my dark red, and I'm just going to make a dot right here in the middle. Just fill in some of that space. And then I'm going to go to my teeniest, tiniest stylus with my yellow. And I'm going to put a little tiny dot up here between my red and my green. Just filling in some of the empty space that I've got here. I'm going to get my 3mm. Stylus. Right above these green dots and petals, I'm going to put a red dot there. And I'm going to swish to the sides. So 3mm in the center of that dot. Then I'm going to get my small tool, my 1.5mm. I'm going to stick with that red, and I'm going to swipe to the right and swipe to the left. And do that all the way around. I'm going to get my 10mm tool and my deep yellow. And then right next to the petal I just made, a large yellow dot. Sometimes these larger dots drive me crazy because the paint doesn't fill evenly, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm just kind of swishing it so it's a nice even dot. next to that deep yellow, I'm going to get my 4mm and I'm going to do a light yellow right above it. Next to it. For me, this is every other line. I am going to create a little crown on top here and then walk the dots on each side. So for the crown, I'm going to use my 3mm stylus, and I am going to use the dark green. And so I'm going to dip and dot 3 times. Dip and dot, and then dip and dot in the middle for my crown. I'm going to do all of those first. So dip and dot, dip and dot, dip and dot. Splattering a lot today. All right, down each side, I'm going to use the light green to walk the dots. I'm going to walk the dots with my 2.5mm tool. I do have kind of a long way to walk, so I think I'm going to kind of cheat that by adding a 2.5mm dot on each side first, and then I'm going to come back and walk it. So that just gives me a little more length, so I'm not running out of paint by the time I get to the bottom. So this was 2.5mm stylus light green. We are preparing to walk the dots down the side. So what I do there is I just add one dot, and that gives me just kind of a head start here when I dip, and then walk the dots around. I'm just cleaning up a little bit of my splatter before I move on. I don't always do this as I'm working, but it's bugging me today. All right, on the sides of this, I am gonna swoop some lines with the red and the pink. So I'm gonna start with my 3mm tool, 3mm stylus, and I'm gonna start right where the dark green and light green meet. And for these longer lines, I usually go about halfway, then restart and pull all the way down. So halfway, get more paint, all the way down. And that helps me make those longer swoopies. You can always use a brush if you want to use a brush. This is a smaller piece. I don't typically use a lot of brush work when I'm working small. So I'm going to do a swipe with the red, then the pink, then the red again. So I'm going to stick with my 3mm stylus. I'm going to go down 2 dots, and that's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to try to pull this one all the way down. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Might have to cheat a little bit. The pink paint is probably a little bit too thick, but that's okay. I'm going to roll with it. I wasn't sure how I would feel with these colors. I really didn't want it to go Christmassy, which sometimes it can with red and green. I think using the pastels and having that yellow kept us away from that. All right, so I did a swoop with the red, swoop with the pink. I'm going to go down a size to 2.5mm, and I'm going to do another swoop with the red on each side. So I went down to shorten this pink one. I'm going to go down again and shorten this red one. I'm using 2.5mm in red. I definitely need something going on in here. I could do like a double dot. I think I'm going to do a large, maybe a triple dot kind of triangle thing here. Ooh, or maybe 1 here and 2 here. That's what I'm going to do. Probably, let's see, 4 or 6. I'm going to do 6 millimeters. And What color? I think I'm going to go red for the first dot. So for the inside of the triangle, I'm going to try to just center that in between that space. It's on a line for me. So 8 red dots, 6 millimeters. I think I'm going to do one of each color. Normally I would match the two on the outside, but I think I'm going to take a chance today. So I'm going to do one red, one yellow, one green. So I'm going to do green next, 6 millimeter. I'm going to put the green to the right slightly. And you can see, so because I use the tool with the T's on it, the stencil, I've got that line right there. And so I'm just going to the right of the line with the green, and I'm going to go to the left of the line with the yellow. I really am liking this color palette. This could have gone wrong in a lot of different ways. So red, yellow, green could have gone very stoplight, but I don't feel like it did. The red and green could have made it very Christmassy, but I don't think that it did. I'm kind of digging it. And I think it'll make all the difference too when we add some top dots. So I think that the way I'm going to top dot is wherever I have the dark colors, I'm going to top dot with light. Wherever I have the light colors, I'm going to top dot with the dark, just to add a second layer there. A little bubble here. Little bubble here. Yeah, I'm really bad with the splatters tonight, y'all. It's like splatter central. But sometimes that's just the reality of it, right? I'm not top dotting, I'm just fixing some mistakes, my splatters. All right, I've got some space, and depending on how loose or tight you work, you may not have space. But in between kind of this triangle of three and these petals here, I've got some space. So I think I am going to pull, let's see, I'll use my 2.5 millimeter and I'm going to pull a green. I'm going to go light green, and I'm just going to pull outward from my yellow to my triple dots there. I don't always worry about filling every little nook and cranny because I do feel like having the blank space, the negative space, is just as important. But I do like I do like that. Hi, Terry. Welcome. Glad you're here. We're getting close to the end. If you, on YouTube, you can always start back at the beginning. So if you want to dot with us, you are welcome to start back at the beginning, or you can just have fun with some dots on your own. I've got some empty space up here at the top, and I'm not sure if I want to fill it or not. I think I am going to take a chance with some pink or red. I think I'm going to do pink. And I think I'm going to just swipe right and then swipe left and just kind of fill in that upper space a little bit. So this is my 2.5 millimeter tool and my pink. I like that. That kind of gives it a finished edge kind of look, right? Oops, that one was little. Oh, I'm glad you've been painting with us. I'm excited to see. Sometimes I think it's just fun to kind of work on something similar with a group of people and see how it all turns out. You know, I think there's so many different ways our dots can be different, even if we're following the exact same pattern. You know, even sometimes just how close together we make it, or if we spread it apart, makes it look different. If we use different tools, if we use different colors, how we top dot. I just think it's really fun. So I'm excited to see how everybody's turns out. And I would not want to spend my Friday night any other way. This is like heaven to me. Not having obligations, not going out. All right, I'm going to break for just maybe 2 or 3 minutes here and let this dry, and then I'm going to top dot. And that way, I think people, if they're not caught up, can get caught up. You can take a health break, get a drink, go to the bathroom, stretch your legs, and then I'm going to start top dotting. I do have, Terry, I do schedule painting online. I have a membership, and we dot 3 Mondays a month. If you're not looking for a membership, the best thing to do is to follow me on Facebook, or just follow me in the Dot Painting USA group. And anytime I do an event online, I'll post it. Those kind of vary based on my schedule, but I do post everything in advance so people can see. And I make the events on Facebook so you can like RSVP and get the reminder. So Facebook is kind of where I go. That's my hub. And so you can find me either on my Facebook page, Tara Lynn Pugh Artist, or in the Dot Mandalas USA group. That's where I post everything. All right, I'm going to mute for a few minutes. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll be back in a few to top dot. right, I'm going to start my top dots. I mentioned a few times what I'm going to do, and you don't have to do what I do at all. But I'm going to, where I have my darker colors, I'm going to top dot with light. Where I have my light colors, I'm going to top dot with the dark. When I teach, I really like to encourage people to top dot, like just to go bonkers top dotting. You don't have to do what I do. You can use your creativity and kind of make somebody else's pattern your own just by changing the top dots. So don't feel like you have to do what I'm doing. But I will continue to walk you through it if you want to. So in the center, I've got an 8mm red. So I'm going to use my 6mm and put pink right on top of that baby. Now, I will top dot when I'm not completely dry, but I will not top dot if I don't have a nice film over the top. So, like, I'm not totally dry. Like you can see here, there's still a little wet paint going on, but I won't, you don't want to do it if there's too much wetness. Oops, hold on a second. Sorry, dog sitting problems. All right, these greens here were dark green, so I'm going to get my 3mm tool. They were dark green and 4mm, so I'm just going to put a little light green 3mm top dot on there. I don't remember if these were 6 or 8. I think they were 8. Since I'm not sure, I'm just going to go with a 5 because I know that's going to be smaller. So I'm going to top dot these dark yellow with a light yellow and a 5. They were definitely 6, so that was a good plan. These pinks that I have here were 4mm. I'm going to use my 2.5mm stylus. I'm not going to walk the dots with top dots. I'm just going to do this center with a dark red. These greens here were 8. I'm going to go 5mm with those. They were light green, so I'm going to go dark green. right, where I've got these yellow teardrops, these were my light yellow, so I'm going to use my 3mm stylus and my dark yellow, and I'm just going to pull right down the middle. These little red dots here, they're pretty small, so I'm going to get my 1.5mm stylus. Oops, red on red, you wouldn't be able to see, that's silly. Maybe 1mm. I just want a teeny tiny dot right on top of there with my pink. Just like I did with the dark yellow here, pulling a line, I'm going to use my small stylus and I'm going to pull a dark green line or a dark green swipe right over the top of these little ones. So depending on how big you made that, I would choose 1.5 or 1mm. You want it to be pretty small. I made these big yellows with my 10mm tool, so I'm going to use a 6mm tool with the lighter yellow. Little yellow dots next to it. I think I had 4mm. I'm going to grab my 3mm stylus. I'm going to make a dot. I'm going to off-center this dot a little bit. No, I'm not. Right in the middle. 3mm in the middle. Dark yellow. Sometimes I want to get crazy and I got to keep myself in line. That's not true. I like crazy. I think what I am going to do for these, though, is I am going to off-center these babies. So if you've got a 3.5 or 4 millimeter tool, that'll work good for this. What I'm going to do is where I've got pink or where I've got red, I'm going to put pink, but I kind of want these dots to be closer to the middle. So each one of these I'm going to off-center so that they're close to the middle. When I say the middle, I mean the middle of that set of 3. So pink on top of red, light yellow on top of yellow. And then light green on top of green. So, my loves, I think this is where I'm going to leave you. Feel free to continue with more top dots, do different top dots, change it up, make it your own. But I would absolutely love it if you would post in the Dot Mandala Artists USA group and let us all see what you created. I can't wait to see. I think what I would like to do, my goal is to do this every 2 weeks. Just throw an event up in the group, not have a specific plan, just kind of play and see what happens. On my end, hopefully you feel comfortable just kind of playing with the color palette and creating on your end. And let's see where it goes. Let's set some time aside to dot together. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Elizabeth, Mary, Terry, thank you for hopping in on the comments. I've got another one scheduled in August in the group, so hopefully I will see you then. See you later, everyone.